Big shock, Jeremy Roloff's new wife exposed. Inside the Audrey Roloff divorce. Have we all been living a lie? Did the picture-perfect marriage we saw on our screens for years hide a turmoil so deep it would ultimately lead to a shocking split? And who is this mysterious new woman stepping into the spotlight left behind by Audrey? The answers are more complex, more surprising, and honestly, more human than any clickbait headline could ever capture. Welcome, everyone, to a documentary-style deep dive you won't find anywhere else. I'm your host, and today, we are pulling back the curtain on one of reality TV's most talked about and dissected divorces. This isn't about spreading gossip. This is about understanding the anatomy of a public breakup, the pressure of perfection, and what happens when happily ever after takes an unexpected turn. This story has layers of faith, of family, of business, and of immense public scrutiny. Stick with me, because by the end of this, you'll see this story in a completely new light. And make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. This is a multi-part investigation, and you will not want to miss where this goes. This is Life After Little People, the unwritten chapters. Let's rewind. To truly grasp the seismic shift of Jeremy and Audrey Roloff's divorce, we have to first understand the image they built, brick by perfect brick. For viewers of TLC's Little People, Big World, Jeremy wasn't just the eldest Roloff son. He, alongside Audrey, became the embodiment of a modern, aspirational love story. They were the farm's golden couple. But their real platform exploded off-screen. They weren't just reality TV personalities, they were influencers before the term was fully coined. Through their blog, their books, their podcast Behind the Scenes, and a relentless stream of curated social media posts, Jeremy and Audrey built an empire based on the idea of intentional living. Their love story was their brand. Choosing love wasn't just a phrase, it was a best-selling book, a mantra, a lifestyle product. They sold journals, mugs, and merch all emblazoned with their philosophies on marriage, faith, and overcoming challenges. Audrey, with her unwavering conviction and poetic captions, and Jeremy, the thoughtful, creative photographer and woodworker, presented a united front. They spoke of overcoming the marriage hangover, of purposeful communication, of keeping Christ at the center. To their hundreds of thousands of followers, they weren't just relatable, they were aspirational. They were the proof that with enough work, enough faith, and enough intention, you could craft a flawless, joyful marriage. The pressure of that narrative is a key character in this story. But if you look closely, the cracks in the foundation, in hindsight, become faintly visible. The narrative was always about the struggle overcome, not the struggle ongoing. In various podcast episodes and interviews, subtle hints slipped through. Discussions about differences in communication styles, about the challenges of merging two strong wills, about the difficulty of maintaining privacy while selling your relationship as a blueprint. Jeremy, often the more reserved of the two, sometimes seemed to chafe at the constant public exposure. Audrey was the driven engine of their brand, the relentless optimist. That dynamic can create magic, but it can also create immense, unsustainable tension. Then came the pivotal decision to leave the family farm. This was a major plot point on LPBW and a central theme in their personal narrative. Choosing to step away from Roloff Farms, the very bedrock of the family identity and the TV show, was framed as their own intentional choice for independence. But it also severed a tangible tie, placing the entire weight of their future and livelihood squarely on the brand they had built together. No farm safety net. Just Jet and Odge Incorporated. Life, as it does, kept happening. They welcomed their son, Ember, and later their daughter, Bode. Parenting, as any parent knows, tests a marriage in brand new ways. The sleepless nights, the shifted priorities, the constant demands, it all goes into the pressure cooker. And all the while, the social media feed had to glow. The podcast had to inspire. The image of the intentional, joyful family had to be maintained. Because that image was no longer just their life, it was their business, their income, their professional identity. The first major tremor for the public came in June 2021. The announcement was made not with a dramatic TV segment, but in a coordinated, carefully worded Instagram post. The language was pure Je and Audrey, intentional, faith-based, but undeniably final. They spoke of many prayers, counseling, and thoughtful conversations. They stated that they had made the difficult decision to end our marriage. They asked for privacy for their children. The internet, predictably, broke. Fans were devastated. Critics felt a sense of grim validation. The comment sections became battlegrounds of speculation. How could the couple who wrote the book on choosing love simply unchoose it? The brand built on marital perfection now had divorce at its center. The cognitive dissonance was staggering. In the immediate aftermath, both Jeremy and Audrey retreated, as promised. The social media posts became sparse, focused solely on the children. The podcast went silent. It was a digital ghost town where a vibrant marketplace once stood. The silence was deafening. It spoke volumes about the sheer magnitude of the personal reckoning happening behind the scenes. This wasn't just a relationship ending, it was an entire identity, a business partnership, a public persona being dismantled. Audrey was the first to re-emerge more fully, leaning heavily into her identity as a mother and her personal faith journey. Her content became more introspective, less couple-focused. There were Bible verses, sunlit photos of the kids, messages about healing and grace. It was a recalibration. Meanwhile, Jeremy's presence was even quieter. He shared photos of projects, of nature, of moments with the kids. A noticeable distance, a different energy, was palpable in their separate online worlds. And then, the rumors began. Whispers of a new woman in Jeremy's life. Followed by the blurry fan photos. The speculation reached a fever pitch until Jeremy, in his own time, made it Instagram official. Enter, her. This is where our exposed narrative begins in earnest. But I need to pause here and be very clear. The word exposed in our title is about revealing the truth beyond the headlines, not about invading privacy. The woman at the center of this new chapter is not a villain. She is a private individual suddenly thrust into a blinding, often cruel, spotlight. Her name is Chloe, and to understand Jeremy's present, we must understand who she is, not through tabloid gossip, but through the facts as they exist. Chloe is not a public figure. She is not an influencer. By all accounts, she is a professional, working in a field completely separate from the entertainment industry. Friends describe her as grounded, kind, and markedly private. The stark contrast to Jeremy's previous life could not be more pronounced. Where his marriage to Audrey was lived out on a public stage, his relationship with Chloe appears to be fiercely protected. There are no joint podcasts, no branded couples retreats, no intentional living merch featuring their faces. Their social media presence as a couple is minimal, tasteful, and ordinary. Example. For Jeremy, this must feel like a breath of fresh air. After a decade under the microscope, to build a relationship away from the commenting crowds, the business deals, and the performative aspects of public life. The photos he shares with Chloe are often candid, relaxed, hiking, casual dinners, quiet moments. It's a different Jeremy Roloff we are seeing. A version perhaps closer to the one he was before the cameras, before the brand, before the pressure to be an example. But the public reaction, as you can imagine, has been a minefield. Audrey's loyal supporters view Chloe's presence as an affront, a symbol of the broken perfect marriage. Some fans are happy to see Jeremy smiling again. The comparisons are inevitable and unfair. Chloe is not Audrey 2.0. She is a different person entering a uniquely complicated situation, a man with 2 young children, a famously public ex-wife, and a legacy of reality TV drama. And what of Audrey during this time? She has been on her own journey of rediscovery. Her content has evolved into a space of single motherhood, deep faith, and personal resilience. She shares struggles with loneliness, the challenges of co-parenting, and the strength she draws from her beliefs. There is a rawness there that sometimes wasn't present in the earlier, more curated Je and Audrey days. She is building a new brand, one centered on Audrey alone. The co-parenting relationship, from the outside looking in, appears to be functional and dedicated to the children. They are seen together at kids' events, they exchange the children on holidays, they avoid public criticism of one another. It is, by all public accounts, a mature and child-focused dynamic. This is perhaps the most commendable chapter in this entire story, their ability to shield Ember and boat from the storm. But the business fallout was inevitable. The Ja and Audrey brand is extinct. Their joint ventures have been dissolved. Their best-selling book, A Love Letter Life, now sits on shelves with a painful, ironic footnote. They have had to financially and professionally untangle a deeply intertwined life. Audrey has pushed forward with her own endeavors, including writing and her Always More brand. Jeremy has returned to his first loves, photography, woodworking, and the outdoors, seemingly less focused on building a public persona. Which brings us to the central, haunting question that every fan, critic, and observer has asked: why? What really happened? The truth is, only two people know the full, intimate answer. And they are not obligated to share it. But we can look at the circumstantial evidence, the pressures, and the psychological landscape to form a reasoned hypothesis. The weight of perfection is crushing. When your relationship is not just a relationship but a source of income, inspiration for millions, and a product to be sold, there is no room for an off day. Normal marital disagreements must be hidden or spun into teachable moments. The need to constantly perform happiness is a well-documented psychological stressor. It creates an us-against-the-world mentality that can initially bind a couple, but eventually, if the world is your customer base, it can create a prison. Furthermore, people grow. And sometimes, they grow apart. The Jeremy who married Audrey in his early 20s is not the same man in his mid-30s. Priorities shift. Passions evolve. The things you thought you wanted from life can change dramatically, especially after experiencing fame, parenthood, and public scrutiny. It's possible they simply became different people who wanted different futures. Jeremy's pull towards a quieter, more private, hands-on life seems evident now. Audrey's path remains firmly in the public sphere of inspiration and ministry. Those are not just different careers, they are different ways of being in the world. Add to this the ever-present shadow of the Roloff family dynamics, documented and dramatized for TV. The tensions with Matt, the complex relationships with siblings, the legacy of the farm, all of this played out in the public eye, adding another layer of strain. A marriage is hard enough without every family argument or holiday gathering being potential storylines for a national television audience. So, was there a single, explosive incident? A betrayal? A scandal? Based on everything we've seen, the respectful co-parenting, the lack of acrimonious leaks, the focused messages on healing, it seems far more likely that this was a classic, if profoundly painful, case of a marriage that slowly dissolved under a unique and intense constellation of pressures. It was death by 1,000 cuts, the pressure of the brand, the exhaustion of performance, the natural evolution of two individuals, and the unrelenting gaze of the public eye. But the story doesn't end here. In fact, we are just scratching the surface. Because the implications of this divorce ripple far beyond one family. What does it say about the influencer culture that sells us perfect lives? What is the psychological cost of building an empire on your personal relationship? And in the age of social media, is it even possible to have a truly intentional life when it's constantly being packaged and presented for consumption? The Jeremy and Audrey Roloff story is a modern cautionary tale. It's a case study in the collision of love, faith, commerce, and reality television. It forces us to question the narratives we buy into, both literally and figuratively. And the most shocking part of this entire story? It might not be the divorce itself. It might be what happens next for both of them. Jeremy, building a quiet life with a private partner, seemingly turning his back on the fame game. Audrey, forging ahead as a powerful solo voice in the faith and motherhood space. Two paths, diverging dramatically from the single road they once shared. But this is just part one of our investigation. In our next installment, we will go even deeper. We will analyze the financial ramifications of the split. We will explore the fan culture wars that have erupted in their comment sections. We will look at the role of their faith in the divorce and the aftermath. How does a community that prioritizes covenant marriage respond when its poster children divorce? And we will examine the unspoken rule of reality TV. What happens when the characters decide to write their own scripts, off-camera? The story of the Roloff divorce is not a tidy ending. It's an ongoing, real-life drama about redemption, reinvention, and the messy, painful, beautiful process of starting over. If you've made it this far, you're as invested in the truth as I am. Don't stop now. The next chapter is crucial. Hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and make sure you don't miss part 2 of this documentary deep dive, where we confront the unanswered questions and look into the future of the Roloff legacy. Because this isn't just gossip. This is a reflection of our own lives, our own pressures, and the stories we tell ourselves. Let's keep digging, together. Click right here on screen for part 2, the moment you can watch it. It will be waiting for you. Until then, I want to know what you think. What was the turning point in your view? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's have a respectful, insightful conversation. And remember, subscribe for the full story. This has been a deep dive into the unraveling of a public love story. I'm your host, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you are stepping into the eye of the storm. This is part 2 of our deep dive into the Roloff divorce, and we are moving from the what to the what now. We left off questioning the very foundations of influencer culture. Now, we see the fallout. The financial unraveling. The fan wars. And the most critical question of all, what does this mean for the future of the entire Roloff dynasty? The divorce of Jeremy and Audrey Roloff wasn't just a personal tragedy, it was a corporate dissolution. Their brand, beating 50%, wasn't a cute slogan, it was a multi-million-dollar enterprise built on books, speaking tours, marriage journals, and curated content. Overnight, their core product, their perfect marriage, was gone. What happens to the company when the factory burns down? Let's talk numbers, hypothetically. When a couple this publicly intertwined splits, the division of assets is a public spectacle by proxy. The intellectual property alone is a nightmare. Who gets the rights to their best-selling book, A Love Letter Life? Who owns the behind-the-scenes podcast archive, every episode a timestamp of a love that no longer exists? What about the trademark on phrases like beating 50% or choosing love? These aren't just words, they are brand equities with real dollar values. The meticulous, aesthetic life they sold, the farmhouse, the flannel, the adventurous spirit, was part of the package. Untangling that is a cold, clinical process that happens in lawyers' offices, far from the Instagram glow. And then there's the real estate. Their dream farm, the one they left Roloff Farms to find, a symbol of their joint future. It's now a shared asset, a logistical headache. Does one buy the other out? Do they sell and split the proceeds? Every physical object, from the porch swing to the dining table they filmed so many cozy videos at, becomes a potential battleground or a painful memory. This financial and logistical dismantling is the unglamorous, brutal aftermath that no viral headline captures. It's the daily reminder that the life you built is being taken apart, piece by piece, spreadsheet by spreadsheet. But the money is only one layer. Let's descend deeper into the psychology of the fanbase. Because when your followers aren't just fans but believers in the lifestyle you preached, a divorce isn't just news, it's a crisis of faith. The audience fragmented into 3 distinct, warring camps. Camp 1, the devastated faithful. These are the followers who bought the books, filled out the journals, and truly saw Je and Audrey as relationship mentors. For them, the divorce felt like a personal betrayal. It sparked an existential question: if their formula didn't work for them, with all their resources and faith, what hope is there for me? Their comments are a mix of heartbreak, confusion, and a sense of being misled. They feel the whiplash of paying for a roadmap that led the mapmakers off a cliff. Camp 2, the vindicators. This group always sensed the performative nature of the brand. They point to Audrey's own past admissions, like the Instagram post where she confessed, "To be honest, the last few weeks have been hard on our marriage. We have been working through some things," or her revelation that they even broke up for 3 months before their wedding, as proof that the cracks were always there, expertly plastered over. For them, the divorce validates their skepticism. Their comments are often sharp, pointing at every past contradiction, asking, "What about choosing love now?" Camp 3, the Protective Brigade. This camp splits further. You have Team Audrey defenders, championing her as a resilient single mom and faith warrior. Then you have Team Jeremy supporters, who view his move toward a private life with Chloe as a healthy escape from a performative prison. The comment sections on their separate posts become echo chambers of support laced with subtle, or not so subtle, digs at the other party. A post from Audrey about finding strength is seen by Jeremy's supporters as a passive-aggressive jab. A quiet photo from Jeremy of a woodworking project is interpreted by Audrey's fans as him being checked out. Every move is psychoanalyzed by an audience that believes it knows them intimately. This brings us to a pivotal, uncomfortable moment in the timeline, the public shaming incidents. According to fan reports, Audrey has faced backlash for posts that were perceived as publicly shaming Jeremy, such as over household chores like laundry. Whether intended or misconstrued, these incidents are critical. They act as a pressure release valve for the built-up tension of their branded image. They show that beneath the polished language of intentionality and common courtesy were the same mundane, frustrating marital disputes everyone has. But when you've sold yourself as experts above the fray, airing these grievances publicly breaks the spell. It transforms you from a guide to just another struggling person, and for an audience that paid for guidance, that shift breeds resentment. Amidst this, both individuals embarked on radical personal rebranding. Audrey's path, the phoenix of faith. Audrey's transformation has been stark and strategic. The Ja and Audrey brand is dead. In its place rises Audrey Roloff, a brand of solo resilience. Her content pivoted hard. Less couple goals, more raw testimony. She speaks now of lessons learned from social media breaks, of leaning on faith during immense personal pain. The messaging evolves from how to build a perfect marriage to how to survive when it falls apart. She's no longer selling a shared dream, she's selling her personal journey of survival and sanctification. Her platform becomes a ministry of brokenness, which, ironically, may be more relatable and powerful than the facade of perfection ever was. It's a brilliant, if painful, pivot. She's rebuilding her empire, not on a couple's love, but on a woman's unwavering faith. Jeremy's path, the quiet escape. Jeremy's rebrand is defined by absence. He has systematically deleted the vocabulary of his old life. His social media is no longer a curated feed for a brand. It's a personal album, landscapes, hands-on projects, candid moments with his kids, subtle nods to his new, private partner. He has visibly retreated from the rhetoric of public intentionality. His silence is his statement. He is not selling a new lifestyle, he is simply living one, and the contrast to his past is the loudest message he could send. He is the ex-therapist who no longer gives advice, choosing instead to just live quietly. For his followers, this is either a betrayal of his influential platform or a profoundly respectable act of self-preservation. And here is where our documentary takes its most speculative, yet necessary, turn. We must examine the unseen forces, the family system and the reality TV machine. The Roloff family is not just a family, it's a franchise. Little People, Big World is a brand that has survived on conflict, love, farm drama, and weddings. A divorce, especially of a couple whose wedding was a season finale event, is the ultimate plot twist. But what happens when the characters refuse to play their parts? The show's narrative always balanced on the tension between family unity and individual dreams. Jeremy and Audrey's departure from the farm was a major storyline. Their divorce writes them out of the central narrative entirely. This creates a vacuum. Who carries the legacy? Zach and Tori? Their story is now the stable, ongoing one. But is stability good for ratings? The family business, Roloff Farms, and the TV show itself must now navigate a new reality where one of its most popular storylines has a definitive, unhappy ending. The pressure on the remaining family members to provide content, happy marriages, new babies, farm drama, intensifies. The machine must keep feeding. Furthermore, consider the children, Ember, Bode, Radley, and the newborn. They are the first true digital native children of this saga. Their entire lives have been source material, from ultrasound to first steps. Now, they are subjects of a co-parenting agreement played out in the public eye. The ethical weight of this is immense. They will grow up with a digital ghost of their parents' marriage, thousands of images, videos, and podcasts declaring a love that ended. Their childhood is archived in the cloud of a broken brand. This is the true, long-term consequence we are only beginning to grasp. So, where does this leave us? What is the endgame? This story does not have a neat ending. It is a perpetual motion machine of speculation, rebranding, and legacy management. Here is what the endless cycle looks like, the cycle that ensures this story will never truly conclude. 1. The co-parenting chronicle. Every holiday, every birthday, every first day of school will be a public event. A photo from Audrey's perspective, a story from Jeremy's. The audience will constantly analyze their interaction, looking for signs of tension or harmony. The narrative of successful co-parents will be an ongoing, performative effort. 2. The new relationship watch. Jeremy's life with Chloe will be under constant, quiet scrutiny. The moment they get engaged, married, or have a child will be a seismic event, sparking a million think pieces comparing timelines and lifestyles. Audrey's potential future relationships will be dissected with equal fervor. 3. The business evolution. Audrey will likely launch new ventures, a book on single motherhood, a faith-based podcast series. Each launch will be framed through the lens of her journey through divorce. Jeremy may start a woodworking business or a photography venture, his silence itself becoming a marketable trait of authenticity. Their financial paths will be compared for years. 4. The family show integration. How will LPBW handle this? Will it be addressed in a special? Ignored completely? Will Audrey or Jeremy ever return for an interview? This dangling thread will keep fans of the show guessing indefinitely. 5. The children's coming of age, the biggest, most unavoidable future chapter. When Amber Roloff turns 13, 16, 18, and gains her own social media voice, what will she say? The children are the sleeping giants of this story. Their future perspectives, their decisions about their own privacy, could reshape the entire narrative in ways we cannot predict. Will they embrace the public life or reject it? This question will hang over this family for decades. This is why the story doesn't end. Because we, the audience, are now complicit in its continuation. Our clicks, our comments, our subscriptions, our demand for updates fuel the cycle. We consumed the fairy tale, and now we are equally fascinated by the deconstruction. We are watching a real-time case study in digital age identity crisis. The cautionary tale of Jeremy and Audrey Roloff is not that love dies. It's that when you monetize your intimacy, you risk bankrupting your soul. You become trapped in the hologram of your own past happiness. Every memory has a sponsor. Every emotion is potential content. Their story forces us to ask, in a world where everything can be content, what should remain sacred? What is the cost of turning your love into a product? And when that product is recalled, what's left of the people who made it? For Jeremy and Audrey, the future is a series of endless tomorrows where they must rebuild not just their lives, but their very selves, outside of the brand they built together. They are on parallel paths, forever linked by history, children, and a digital ghost that will never fully be deleted. For you, the viewer, this is your call to action, but not in the way you think. Hit that subscribe button, absolutely. Ring the bell. But do it with intention. Ask yourself why you're drawn to this story. Is it gossip? Or is it because you see fragments of your own pressures in theirs, the pressure to appear perfect, to have it all figured out, to sell your best self to the world? Let this be more than entertainment. Let it be a mirror. Use the comment section not for warfare, but for reflection. What did this story make you feel about your own life, your own relationships, your own social media presence? The documentary doesn't end here because their story doesn't end here. And as long as we watch, analyze, and consume, we are part of its unfolding. This has been a journey into the heart of a modern American parable. I'm your host, signing off and asking you to watch carefully, to think critically, and to choose kindness, both online and, more importantly, in the real, unscripted, unposted moments of your own life. Subscribe. Stay tuned. The story continues.